freaking stalking them suckers.
All right, guys, I'm going for it. Let's
do
go.
it.
All right.
Got it. Okay, let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Mute this for a second.
We'll see you on the back screen there.
Meeting is now streamed live, custom streaming service.
Says you got 1 minute and 7 seconds.
Yeah. Where are you?
Don't forget the latency built into this.
Yeah.
Waiting for you. I'm waiting to mute.
Yeah, likewise.
Oh, I need a mute too. All
I
right.
don't think you can until it's live.
Yep.
Okay.
Another stream. I knew it.
Sorry, I just threw up a comment. We're coming. Hang on.
Is it working, Vahagan?
Let me just put the link up to the new stream. Hold on.
Don't stress if it's a minute or two late. Just people will wait.
Yeah, they're
Hold on,
chatting
guys.
already.
No, you know what happened? It's on another stream.
Are we actually live already?
Yes, we are.
Hi, guys.
I have done that before.
Me too.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, so I'm gonna put the new link up on the old chat room.
Oh, to get everybody to swap over.
You might find it's better to actually just end that one and move to the right one, seeing there's already chat and it's all been promoted.
Yeah.
Whenever I've moved people, only half will come.
It won't
If
let.
that.
Yeah, it won't let me because it's set up on a mobile device.
Okay.
So that's where that's where the messed up. Okay, so hold on one second.
Do you have to do it through the mobile device? Can you do it through your computer?
Are you gonna stay live? I just put a comment on the old one saying check for new stream.
Yeah, they're streaming in now. Let me just view on. There we go. One minute, guys. We're going through some technical difficulties.
Well, it looks like we're live. Hi, Gold, Agnetha.
Hello, guys. All right. All right, guys. Welcome to Vahagraphy Talk. We had a little bit of a technical issue, but I think we're live. This is Vahagraphy Talk number 19. And I just put up the new URL for you guys. And welcome, Matt, Josh, Chuck. Welcome to Vahagraphy Talk 19.
Welcome, guys.
All right. Good to be here. Thank you.
So you guys had the Nikon Z9 for a couple weeks, a month now, or actually Matt's had it the longest.
Matt's had it a year.
Yeah. What do you guys think so far, Matt?
So has everyone been hands-on with it? Have you got one, Vahagan, or you've gone to play with it?
Just to play with it. I don't have mine yet. Very soon.
You've got an order in though?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very soon.
Yeah, I've had mine for about a month now, and I mean I'm a freaking Nikonaholic. I'm out every day. My wife and I are talking about a divorce, and I'm going to marry the camera. And no, I'm kidding. But it's been a little ridiculous. Yeah, that thing has been attached to my hip and my eye socket all the time. It's awesome.
I mean, apart from the tech side of it, that is a nice feeling when you get something new, whatever it is, and it makes you want to go out and do it more. It's
Absolutely so true. I saw Chuck's video about photographing those motorcycles, so he's had his fair share.
I've had mine for a month and a half, and that was the first time I actually got it out to shoot anything that moves other than tiny birds, which were frustrating me. And I was beginning to wonder, is it the camera, the lens? And then I realized I was asking the camera to do something that no camera can do right now.
Which is what?
Catch these little bitty, titmouse and juncos in flight. Are you kidding me? With a telephoto lens, no less.
Yeah.
I don't know how tiny those birds are, but what focus mode were you in?
I used the in video AFF and then the wide L, wide large, and animal AF. But all that behind me now, I took it out to the track the other day, a couple of days ago, and it overly impressed me. I was absolutely just head over heels in love with it. After the first couple of minutes, it took me a couple of minutes to shake it out and get the AF modes right. But man, once I got it, it was tremendous for that genre. So I'm happy. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, that's good. All right, guys. Well, again, sorry for the tech difficulties. You have to switch over to this new chat. But welcome everybody. They're streaming in right now, guys. So yeah, I'm excited too, guys. I can't wait to get mine. But I've seen all you guys do your thing. And it's like, all right,
Come on, my turn.
Yeah, it's like you have what? You have 2 or 3 of them, right, man? You have 2 cameras.
2. Sorry, one of them may be yours.
Yeah, well,
that's interesting that you got them so quick. I mean, I called my supplier and I said, look, just go ahead and send me another one. And he said, it'll be a year. He said, I have right now, I have 3,700, he said, logged. And, he's getting 9 to 12 a month. So you do the math on that. A year would be a very generous estimation. So yeah, it's not happening very fast over here, and it's unfortunate because there's a lot of, I personally know 3 people who have just given up, canceled their orders, and they took their money and went and bought Sonys or R5s. So I don't know how good of a strategy that was for Nikon, but slow is not the best
Don't
method
get me
for
started.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know that it's strategy. They're not a luxury brand. I don't think they're doing it to create hype. But
yeah,
I mentioned this in a recent video. If you go and try and order the Apple laptop that I'm streaming on now, you have a 2 or 3 month wait, and that's freaking Apple. So give them a break. They're a tiny company, and they suddenly have a product that's in huge demand. You can't just scale up 100 times. What do you want?
that's true. Very good point. Exactly.
Matt,
right.
we're not getting off on the right foot here.
You got yours.
so you guys seeing the chat, right? You guys on the new page?
Yeah, I can see the,
Perfect.
sort of.
All right.
Yeah, I've got it. I just have to look over to the side. I'm going to keep an eye on it for you, Vahag, and make sure that if they have questions, we can answer them.
Yeah. I've just, never set up a live stream on a mobile device.
It must be the stream key, because I've had that in the past when I hit live and it just went to a new stream. It was when I had the key in wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's why anytime I want to go live, I just called Chuck or Vahagan and said, schedule me. That's because I don't know how to do it. Complete idiot.
yeah.
But
I use Restream, so it's easy for me, but this seems to work well.
Yeah. So I like what you're doing with your Z9, Matt. Your latest video on why the Z9 is the ultimate pro Nikon camera.
For me, yeah. I mean, like Chuck was saying before, it is the shock when you first use it of how good the autofocus is. I mean, have to be fair, it's the same shock I felt when I used an A9 2 years ago. I think this is probably better than an A9, but there's the A1 now. But still, you can kind of just get lost and just shoot and be impressed with it. But still, it has so many options and newer focus modes than the previous ones had. As you spend more time with it and take the time to choose the best settings for each scenario, it does even better. So like you might find, I don't know, I'm not a bird expert like these guys, but that for big hawks or something, that wide is a great tracking mode. But for the little birds, it may actually be not needing to detect it as an animal, but using 3D tracking, it can track tiny, tiny birds in a busy situation just based on the color contrast that they have.
Yeah, so if I can speak to that, I was photographing ducks the other day, and there's a little runway that they pass through, and I kid you not, they go 70 miles an hour, and they're the size of a football. And I am not exaggerating. I must have had 2,000, because you're firing 20 frames a second, and you do that 50 times, you get 2,000 perfectly in focus shots. And I used the large area, and it just grabbed the bird. As long as I could keep that bird in that large box, it grabbed that tiny little bird the size of a football. And now I'm scrolling through Lightroom, like, okay, I like the wing position of that one. I don't like the wing position of that one. His head is slightly turned to the left. I got a little bit of an eye catch in that one. So it spoiled me in the sense that I got too many good shots to choose from. And I thought back on one of Matt's videos where he had the dancer jump on that pole at 120 frames per second. And, one picture to the next, it's just that little tiny expression. And it's the same thing in wildlife. They move so quick, and Nikon has now just afforded us the opportunity to get stupid in picking that exact moment. That's perfect, for lack of better words.
Yeah, I mean, I get people when they say spraying and praying, or like using it as a derogatory thing, using so many frames. But it was a guy years ago. He's actually a Nikon Australian ambassador, and he shoots feature films, and he uses the term hosing down a scene. When you're shooting, he shot like the Bourne Supremacy and the Matrix and Mad Max and stuff. That when there's a huge action sequence, well, what are you talking about? Of course, you're going to put down all the frames you can. They're not going to re-blow up the house so you can get the frame.
Exactly.
So in that kind of, like if using birds, when you've got a bird flying, again, I'm not an expert, but you might find at 20 frames a second, 1 out of 400, you just get this crazy incidence of light off the wing where it shines in a way that none of the others do. And you wouldn't have got that shot at 15 frames a second, let alone 8 or 10. So for me, I'm rarely at 20, 30, or 120, but occasionally when you want to get that shot, it's a nice option to have for sure.
Yeah, well said. Exactly right.
Yeah,
It scared me to death the first time I hit the shutter button on 20 frames per second. I let go of it like, oh, what am I doing? Kind of startled me. Wasn't used to that. But I'll agree with both of you. Even in motocross, there is no decisive moment that you can nail by waiting for it. You can wait for the position, but you can't wait for the expression, the hand placement, and so many other things. So you're absolutely right. 20 frames per second, I get my choice. And out of that, I find the one that nobody else got because they were single point, single shot, and they get what they get. While it's a good photo, I find one that's unique, if you will.
It's
So
actually,
true.
that's the risk of it. And like anything, this is a much more complex computer than we've ever had from Nikon. So
Yes.
taking your chance of getting the shot is higher, but the chance of you potentially not being in the right settings because you have so many options, you can also screw it up. So I could see, and I've heard from enthusiasts, and I get emails every day from people who, and good on them, they've got the money, great, but who basically don't know anything about photography, but were able to get this amazing camera. So they're asking the most basic questions. I can see people could actually get frustrated at it because they've seen it should get these great results, but then they don't get them themselves. Like you said, if you don't keep the duck in the large area, you won't get the shot. If you put it on animal eye, but you go to shoot a person, it won't see the person at all. You know, It's got computer logic. So you have to be in the right mode. And when I shot a model doing some hair movements, so they're having 20 frames a second was amazing. But then I stupidly forgot to put it back to 2 or 3. So when we went back to shooting normal portraits, I ended up with 1,000 shots, thinking that I was only taking 20, because that you don't have that haptic feedback of feeling the shutter. You know, whether it's going tut 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 or you don't. I don't know. I don't hear a difference between 8 or 20, and the cards keep up, so you don't notice it basically. So it is. There's more to learn. So it's going to take more time to master it.
Yeah, good point. You know, speaking to that, and I don't want to dwell on this too long, but that sound, you know, it only takes about a week or so of working with it where you start to kind of get the feel of that sound. You know, how quick do I need to let go of that shutter button? But what I've noticed, there's a sharp drop off. I was doing some low light photography, and you know, the birds were passing by still pretty quick, and I was trying to get that drag effect, you know, that slow shutter speed effect. You don't get 20 frames a second when you're shooting at 1/100th of a second, and you can audibly hear that. You know, you kind of hear the rhythm of that.
You don't even get it at 1,000th.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a sweet spot that you have to be at to get those 20 frames per second.
Yeah,
but
I think it's like 1,600 or 2,000th, then you'll reliably get it. And of course, it's still, if you're metering and focusing in between, you got to have a buffer for that. It's still not
exactly right.
A miracle. It's like people shooting at a 25th of a second, expecting to get 20 frames a second. Come on. That's just...
exactly. The math doesn't work out, right? Yeah. The shutter can't open and close it many times. It's always surprised every time I try something different with it.
I have a question for you guys. How much better is the EVF and larger than the Z6, Z7s?
Well, I had the Z6 too, and so I think the Z9 is 3.9 million dots. Is that right? Am I quoting that right? Somewhere in that ballpark?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and I think the Z6 is like 3.6 or something pretty comparable. What I notice is that the EVF feels larger in the Z9. It feels tiny in the Z6, and the way the autofocus points, you know, edge to edge are in the Z6. It almost looks like the autofocus points are bigger in the Z6, so it doesn't feel like you're getting the whole scene in the EVF. But the Z9, because of the size of it and the size of the autofocus points, it just seems it gives you at least the illusion that it's more, you know, the resolution's higher and you have those tinier autofocus points.
Let me ask you and Matt. When I was out there 2 days ago, it was a weird day. We had very low cloud cover, almost overcast, but breaks, and the sun was blaring. At one point I was shooting not literally into the sun, but the rider was backlit, and it was so bright that obviously I couldn't see anything on the LCD. I was looking through the viewfinder, the EVF, and I could barely make out the rider there. It was just so daggone bright. And I had listened to some advice from others and lowered the brightness on the EVF to, I think, number 3. I think that's how you adjust it. Anyway, well, I just aimed the camera towards the rider, hit the shutter, and well, I mean, every photo came out tack sharp, but I couldn't hardly see through the viewfinder. Have you guys experienced that yet?
So do you shoot wearing your glasses, Chuck?
Yes.
So that if you had a incident of light that was coming side in, you might find that you're having trouble from seeing it because you're an inch away from the viewfinder. So you might want to check out when Hoodman come out with a new eye cup for you. That can help on any camera. And actually, I think he's in the room. I saw Cool Wildlife. Bill did a post on his page recently where he showed you can get like a a D5 or D6 Hoodman and hack it to fit onto these because they don't have one out yet.
Interesting.
Do you have it set to show your settings preview or not?
Yes.
Okay, so they're the two variables you've got basically, well, three. Make sure you're blocking stray light with a hood or getting your eyes close, the brightness of the thing, and then having the true exposure shown. But I haven't had a situation like that. To answer Vahogan's question, though, this sounds like I'm being a Nikon apologist or something. So I'll start by saying it's not as high res as an A1 or the Leica cameras, for example. It's just, it isn't. But personally, it took me a long time to make the mental shift between an OVF and an EVF. But personally, it was just about the brightness and the lag. On the early mirrorless, all of them, the lag, I just couldn't deal with it. And even by the Z6 and Z7 Mark I, I felt it was good enough and the benefit of having exposure preview and stuff was worth it. So for me, this is super low lag and really bright on the Z9. And that's already great. Like, yes, when you use something like a SL2 or something like that, the EVF, it is insanely detailed, but that's useful if you're like magnifying to get focus peaking, or once you've taken a shot and you want to review it. It's great for framing up a scene. I haven't barely found it, but in like complex patterns, sometimes super high res, I don't know, it's like you getting the aliasing in the shot or something. Like it feels, it looks too busy. It's really a rare thing, but for me, the EVF is, for the last few generations, for me, it's just like, it's good. And I don't really care about it. I know that sounds like I'm dismissing a weakness on the camera, but you know, it's just not as high res, but for me, it's fine.
I didn't mind the resolution, and I noticed no lag. Now that you say it, it didn't even cross my mind as I was out there shooting. It was as close to OVF or close enough that I didn't even realize, you know, it was EVF.
Do you guys shoot more? I mean, I know Josh, he's doing the birds. It's kind of hard to use the LCD, right? But you guys use a little bit of both when you're shooting, or is it mostly EVF?
EVF or rear screen, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm 100.
Personally, I use both.
Yeah, I'm 100% EVF. I mean, when my eye is on the action, I can't take my eye off of it. I mean, just this evening, you know, I looked up and there was a deer crossing the river, and I love the fact that you change the settings and you see, you know, exactly what it's doing to the scene. But you know, if I take my eye off of it, I'm losing it, right? And then I have to reacquire it in the rear screen. But that might be a matter of practice, right? I've never used the rear screen. So back to the optical viewfinders, that was a hard transition for me because of that, right? You never take your eye off that eyepiece. You're waiting for that action to happen. So it's just a matter of practice. I think if you're shooting different types of photography, certainly that rear screen's great.
It's funny that, again, not being an expert on birds like you, but in that kind of a situation, I actually find the opposite, that if I'm using a telephoto lens, if I don't pull away and look around, I could realize that I'm like focusing on this pigeon and there's a freaking bald eagle 6 meters away that I wouldn't have even noticed was there. So I often have to
keep your other eye open. I've learned to keep both eyes open. So as I'm looking through my viewfinder,
so it's above the camera.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was so used to shooting with the D5, D4, same way, you know, all optical viewfinder, never using the rear screen. But I can see where I would use the rear screen in video mode, shooting motocross. I think it would work out great if the lighting is right, meaning I can see the screen.
Yeah. In contrast, all of my video, my B-roll, for the YouTube channel, you know, it's shot on the Z6 too, and I'm 100% on the rear screen. And, you know, when I compose my scene off that rear screen, I put up the the squares to kind of get a good understanding of what I want to see, and put the light in the right spots. I never look through the viewfinder when I'm doing video. So once again, it's use, but wildlife photography, you better have your damn eye on that viewfinder as things are flying by at 70 miles an hour.
I had, with weddings, it's tough because I'm so used to the OVF on a D4, D5 that I know guys that shoot LCD all the time at a wedding. It's like, I got to get used to that, man. Cause sometimes you don't see the light. You don't, it's just a 3-inch screen or whatever. And you just don't see like the light coming in, and I have to get used to that EVF. I'm still not used to it when I'm doing wedding photography. So
what's the difference? What do you find? Like, what do you mean don't see the light? How's it different?
When you're shooting outdoors, doing groups in a bright sunny day.
It's just difficult to see the screen, you mean? No.
Yeah, to see what's going on, the light.
That makes sense. So makes perfect sense.
Bright sunny day, it's like, oh man, I want to, I always use the EVF, but it's getting better and better, man, the technology. You guys remember when mirrorless just came out and those EVFs were like horrible?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, if we're doing a comparison, I had an R5 up to my eye, not last weekend, but the weekend before. The Z9 is way better. I mean, of course, the R5 is 4-year-old technology now, and I'm sure the R3 is much better, but it was noticeable immediately. I'd say the Z6 is better than the R5, but on the flip side, that R5 autofocus, man, it grabbed the eye farther away and held to it a little stickier. So I got to hand it to Canon. They still have some little secret sauce in that eye autofocus that. But hang on, let me give you a caveat, okay? There has been times I've been photographing with that Z9 and I thought it was missing everything. I'm watching, and I even posted that in one of my owl videos where I was talking about the autofocus. It looked like I missed every shot. It wasn't grabbing focus. And then I went back and I looked through the images, and 75% of them were perfectly in focus. It was just the eyepiece in the EVF wasn't tracking like it was on the actual sensor. And I don't know the science behind that, how they've engineered that in the speed, whether my eye wasn't picking it up fast enough. But sometimes it doesn't look like you're getting what you think you're getting, and you're getting it.
Josh, on that, one quick thing, I saw some of your videos with your beautiful narration. I don't know if you would have seen this, but something I found, maybe it's common knowledge, but it was new to me. One, yes, any camera can do that, but I've noticed it on the Nikons that you might even see that the eye box, if your subject's moving right to left, seems to be trailing a tiny bit behind. But if you are doing what I think you do, like me, recording with an Atomos, that affects your performance, and it does slow down. It makes that delay more distinct. And if you're shooting with the Atomos, even if, whatever it's showing you and your strike rate was good, your autofocus and your shooting will be slower. If you take that Atomos off, if you're just shooting for yourself, take that off and you're going to have a better experience. Because I was even doing like card write speed tests, and the number of shots you can get off when the processor is spending some time outputting HDMI at 4K slows it down. So to redo the test, you actually can't show the audience unless you get one camera to film the back of the other camera, which is so janky and old fashioned, but it does have an impact. And of course it does. It's another process going through the system.
Yeah. And people told me that, and I went out and tested it immediately, and that is 100% the case. And so absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So
back to your question. Oh, sorry, Chuck, you go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add to this. Out at the track, so I'm the newbie here since I haven't had my camera out as much, but I noticed the same thing, that the box was trailing at times. As long as it was near the individual, I'm going to make a statement here. As long as it was near the individual, I assume, based on reviewing the photos, that the focus was spot on. It was just the lag in the box itself. Because when I saw that, I thought the same thing. It just kind of startles you. You think, oh no, I've got 5 or 10 frames out of focus. Wasn't the case at all. So it surprised me. It's just, is it possible that it's just because that's a separate system within itself driving the box or whatever in the viewfinder, but I didn't have photos out of focus, even where the box was just trailing. As long as it was vicinity, it was doing what it was supposed to do. At least that's my take on it. And I'm going to talk about this more tomorrow when I pull up all the photos and we talk.
Yeah, that's certainly the case. I mean, evident by the fact that, I'm shooting an owl in a 2-second moment, and you get 54 images that are perfect. And through the viewfinder, it looked like none of them would be perfect. So I'd have to say that is the case. The viewfinder just lags a little bit in the autofocus.
As long as you're getting the green focus confirmation, you're probably okay.
That's another thing. Correct. Exactly right.
Hey,
Back
Matt,
to your question about the screen. Sorry, Vahagan.
Go ahead.
Because I forgot to mention it. Whilst it is a weak point on the camera, having been shooting on location recently, I do use that quite a lot because I'm too old and fat to lay on the ground all the time, especially if I'm at a river. So to be able to go down like that and actually frame up my shots, it is a big help sometimes.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Have been since the D850 and D500.
Yeah.
Also, when I'm shooting rarely, but out shooting birds for an afternoon on a gimbal and a big tripod, just 4 hours with my eye to the viewfinder, I find I'm standing funny and I start to get a sore back. So I'll just step back and keep my fingers on the button and view the screen so I can, stretch my legs and crack my neck and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Even for like when you're doing video too. I mean, that's such a good thing to have with tilty screens and stuff. I wanted to ask Matt, I've never asked you this question, but you're a full adapter to Z glass right now. What's your favorite Z mount lens right now?
So I've got a couple of F mounts still, my favorites, and I just bought actually a new one. So I kept the 200 F2 and I rebought the 105 1.4 having sold it. That was in my transition, my one, well, I don't know about one, but an obvious error. I just never thought that they would get an adapter that would make it work good enough, and they did. So I rebought it because I love that lens. To be fair, I bought it just before I went to Australia and I haven't actually reused it. So hopefully it isn't a lemon. And then I bought the 500 PF as well. But otherwise, I'm all in on the Z glass and it's spectacular.
That's, yeah. That nice. How's that? You still at 400?
I haven't touched it yet, but I spoke to Nikon Hong Kong and hopefully I'll get it once I'm out of quarantine.
Yeah, I've got mine pre-ordered and my sponsor said you'll be first. So hopefully they can get it to me. But my own money bought that sucker.
What's it retail for in the States?
Right at 14,000, 13,900. Yeah. But it's here's my thinking on it. That's it, right? What else do you need after that? I get a 2x teleconverter, and I've already seen how that teleconverter reacts to the Z mount glass. It's fantastic. I mean, I don't know what they did optically from the F mount glass to the Z mount glass, but they really nailed the teleconverter. So sharpness is much better. So that with the built-in 1.4, I mean, I've got 5 lenses. It's the way I see it. I can't picture buying another lens. It doesn't make sense to me that there'll be another lens that'll replace that one. Perfect lens, in my opinion.
It's a good way to justify 14 grand.
Did you?
Yeah, well, I work hard. So
did you see the size? I mean, I saw Matt Irwin's video yesterday. He dropped it, I think.
Yeah.
The size of that lens is like surprising.
It's small or big?
It's not that much smaller than a regular 400 2.8.
It looks a little smaller in my eyes.
It maybe an inch, but what the huge difference and the thing that really just pushed me over the edge is the weight. We're talking 5.5 pounds, 6 pounds. You can't beat that. I mean, I think it's right at 6. I think it's 5.95 pounds, or I don't know what grams are. I never was good at that, but contrast that to the 600 that you just got, that's what, 9 pounds, 8.88 or whatever it is. And then the one that I had was 10.5 pounds. So that is a massive difference in weight. I mean, I can carry that. I used to carry the 100 to 400 f4 around all the time. I mean, I kept it on my hip all the time, and that was 7.5 pounds. So yeah, this is going to be a dream to carry that little lens around.
Yeah,
Nice.
it looks nice.
Matt, do you have the 100 to 400 as well? The new one?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
Here, actually? That's good. I mean, for the size, price, weight, everything's a good balance. It's not going to be optically, up there with the 70 to 200 or one of the primes, but for the flexibility, I really like it. And again, I thought for the optics and the price, it's actually really competitively priced.
Yeah, I got it at the same time with the Z9. I really like it. I've got the poor man's 800 as well, the 2X TC. So I tried that out there the other day too. And I'm impressed with that. I'm shooting it wide open, but I think if I stopped it down just a little bit, it would be incredibly sharp. So we'll see as I get to play with it some more.
That's the thing that maybe blew me away most about this camera. And there was a lot of things, but using a 5.6 lens with a 2x teleconverter in the past, that's just unusable, but it's perfectly usable, even in like a wooded
Totally
area.
agree.
For people who don't shoot that stuff, when you're in shooting little birds in a forest, you could have an eighth of the amount of light that you have out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be at ISO 20,000 or something, but it's still picking them out. The AF is still better than a Z7 II in bright daylight. It's ridiculous.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Your 100 to 400 at 400 with the 2x is what? 800 and what? What's the
F11?
800 millimeter at f7.1, right? No, I'm sorry,
F11.
F11.
Wow.
Stop it down to about F18, and I think that it gets even better, which is typical, I guess, with TCs. Obviously, you need some light, and you're going to crank up some ISO. But the other day with the light that I had, I was shooting some guys that were riding bikes, and they were about 400 yards away from the track. And great results. I'm extremely happy with it. It's no F8 Prime, but it didn't cost what an F8 Prime costs either.
Yeah.
What is
that? I mean, an 800 5.6 last generation, those G lenses was
18 or 20 grand.
Yeah, exactly. So you take a 400 2.8, you put a 2x teleconverter on the back of it, and you got a 800 5.6. And then you have a built-in teleconverter, and that, what is that, 1120, something like that, 1120 at f 7.1, because you only lose a third of a stop or whatever, or one stop. So yeah, or f8, even if it's f8. So that's why I think that 4.8, that a 2.8 400 is Nikon's perfect wildlife lens. Just absolutely perfect.
Plus shoot DX on the Z9.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Well, not only that, so we do video, go 120 frames per second at 4K, which is I haven't done the math yet, but I think it's like 2.3 times crop. So what is that? I don't know the math on that. I mean, that's almost, goodness, if you have a 2x teleconverter, 800 plus a 140, you're 2,000 plus millimeter effective focal length with 4K 120.
Wow,
Better
2,000
have
plus
good
millimeter
and stabilization at that focal length for video.
Wow,
Ridiculous.
can you imagine? You need to have that thing stabilized, man.
Well, and that's the next thing I'm working on. I shoot with a guy out in Yellowstone on occasion, and he's a the red cameras, the video cameras, and his setup, his tripod, if I'm not mistaken, he told me he paid $4,800 for it. So that plus his his sliders that he works off of, his video head. I mean, we're talking a $5,000-$6,000 setup. I don't know if I'm going to go to that for a freaking YouTube channel, but he's selling his stuff to BBC and Discovery Channel.
It's
But
probably
yeah, I
something
mean,
to-
exactly right, Chuck. I mean, you better be pretty freaking stable if you're planning on using that footage.
I was impressed the other day, though, in video mode. You saw my video. It's
Mhm.
not handshake. It's just moving the camera around, trying to follow everybody. I was really impressed with the stabilization in camera and lens. It worked extremely well, or at least I thought it did.
Yeah, and if you warp stabilize it in Premiere Pro or whatever, it takes it away completely. So incredibly good stabilization, especially compared to like the D850 when you shot that on even a VR lens. It was freaking unusable. You couldn't, video sucked. So yeah, we've come a long way, boys. We've come a long way.
Hey, Matt, I want to thank you for all you did early on with all the testing that went on, especially the cards, because I went by your recommendation. I bought the cards and I'm extremely happy with the cards. I'm just not happy with myself because I got out to the track and found I only had one card in the camera shooting 130 or 120 frames a second. It's only a 128 gigabit card. So the ending to this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can really chew through it, but you're welcome. Thank you. That's nice to hear. All the early testing I did, I have to say, like I knew there's going to be a lot of people who want access, and I just got really fortunate. Thank you to Nikon Hong Kong. I think I'm the only photography YouTube channel here, so I get, there's not that much competition. But all the tests I was doing was like, if I'm interested in this, and I think a lot of people who are looking to buy it are in the same boat as me. They're D850 or D5, D6 shooters or Z7 shooters. They probably want to know all the same stuff as me. So I just did all the tests that interested me so that I could decide if it would work for me, even though after about 5 minutes of shooting it, I knew it would.
I also want to comment on your Techtober video strategy there. What did you put out, like 77 videos in 3 months or something?
I don't know, but
I
there was
impressed.
a
I was like, is this guy eating between videos? That was pretty
Matt,
amazing.
I don't know if you realize how starved we were for information.
Yeah,
so
that's
we were
true.
glued to everything that you were posting. Seriously.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah,
it's a very
I did
fortunate
notice
that
in
you're
my
that
YouTube
position.
analytics, that was like a double month for me.
Yeah.
you've been a big time. You've been steady over the years. I mean, you're a constant pro when it comes to the photography and the videos on YouTube, man. But you're a big influence to us and to many. I don't know if you kind of know that, right? I mean, you know that your influence is huge.
Well, I hear that. It's very touching. It's funny. When you go to thank you. Yeah, that's really kind of you.
Could you
when
bring
you go
me
to
up every now and then with your influence?
did
I'm
I
just
whatever?
kidding.
What? Sorry.
What was that? What'd you say, Chuck?
He's trying to get a free promotion. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Matt.
I said, could you bring me up every now and then with that kind of influence? No, I'm just kidding, Mac. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure. Well, this is interaction one of many, I hope. When you have a meetup or something and you see or hear from people, oh, I got this, or I changed the way I do that because of, feedback that you gave, that's when you realize.
Mhm.
But just day to day creating videos, putting it on YouTube, I don't know, you can kind of lose perspective of it. I think all
Mhm.
creators, you can sometimes focus on the 1 of 10 criticisms and quickly brush past the 5 or 6 thanks that you get, and they don't kind of sink in quite as much. But yeah, I mean, same that I've been doing it for 11 years now, and there were people who'd been doing it a few years before me, and they were a big influence getting started. So it just makes sense.
Yeah. No, you're a nice guy. You get haters?
Everyone gets haters.
You?
I even
Yeah,
have
of
haters,
course.
man.
Yeah.
No way you have haters,
Right,
Josh.
right, Chuck? I mean, I don't see that.
You're angelic.
Matt, I've got a question. Is it okay to take a YouTube tangent just for a moment, just because we do this, right? We're on YouTube. When did I'm year 1, right? Vahagen is a couple years into it.
1.5.
Yeah.
1.6.
So I feel like I'm having a little bit of success right now, and I struggle with the fact that I can't keep up with the 13 messages a day on Instagram, the 296 comments on YouTube, and then 9 emails a week. You know what I'm saying? It's like and I'm so grateful for it. It's so kind of people to reach out and say how they're affected by the videos. But how do you balance that, right? I mean, I'm a project manager building $14 million buildings. You know what I'm saying? So I've got a full-time job with a lot of demand on me, plus a YouTube channel. How do you balance that, right? How do you decide how much I'm going to engage with my audience? Am I asking that right? Do you understand what I'm
Yeah,
asking?
sure. I mean, and I think everyone does it differently. So I know there's people who just don't read the comments, whatever field they're in. And then there's others who will respond in detail to everything. But it really, for me personally, it does come down to how busy I am. There'll be times where if I have like right now, I'm in hotel quarantine, so you can expect a reply. But also when someone writes me an email and it's 6 pages long with no clear question, that I can't reply to all of them. I just don't have the time to read them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I hear you. It is a time suck, and you have to prioritize. So community building is important, but it's not something that directly kind of pays your bills. So you have to get that stuff out of the way. Something I'm trying to get better on is on the most recent videos, I'll try to read them all. If they need a reply or a response, then, do that. But, if I get a comment, well, basically not being so defensive, especially if someone just disagrees, I'll either just like it or move on rather than feeling the need to correct it, especially if you've taken the time to be careful with your word choice and what you've said in the video and you stand by it. If they've actually bothered to listen to the words, then I don't feel like I need to argue the point about it. They can just have a different opinion, and that's fine.
Yeah, fair enough.
And especially if it's an older video, like I got some comments yesterday on like 5 or 6 year old videos about like how it was wrong, and it's like, well, that's obviously based on what's happened in the last 2 years, so that doesn't need a reply.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, it can become a huge amount of time required to do all of that. I'm sure some people must hire staff once they're big enough to just do all of that, just kind of lumping it together with general customer service.
Yeah.
How much of your time do you devote to making videos, posting, research, / your professional photography / your personal life? Do you divide that up?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the third category is at this stage.
Personal life.
Again, funny. It depends. I mean, for me, YouTube's it's part of it's community building, but if I look at it from a business perspective, it's the marketing part of my business. So I need an active audience to do my tours and workshops and courses and stuff. So it does require and deserve an investment of time. If I weren't doing that, then, I could be running Instagram ads or something, or having someone do that for me and spending the money rather than the time. Again, there's no kind of clear answer. Like right now, when I'm in quarantine, there's no socializing going on. So it's, do I watch a Netflix show, or do I spend an hour preparing something or replying to stuff, that kind of thing. When I was in Thailand, it was probably 80% shooting and work and stepping on nails, and 10% socializing, and 10% community type stuff. When I was in Australia, it was probably 50% social life, 30% shooting for projects that are paid, and then maybe 20% for YouTube. But then there'll be days like yesterday. What did I put out? Was it the Z9 one? I put out something yesterday and the day before. So, you know, that was a few hours of time, and I had the time. So I bothered to write out some notes for what I was going to cover rather than just winging it. And, you know, then especially like, I guess all of us doing the little bit of planning, whether it's just coming up with the idea or actually scripting it. It's rare that I would script something entirely, but then setting up the cameras and doing a test and filming it and getting interrupted by the people coming to do my third COVID test of the week.
Yeah.
And then editing and uploading and captioning and putting it on the website and emailing it out. You can lose half a day for one little 20-minute talking head video, which looks so simple to make.
I wish my videos only took half a day. I need to adapt your philosophy. I mean, I shoot the entire weekend and I get back home and I'm like, shit, I've got 5 minutes worth of footage. You know what I'm saying? Because you cut it down into these 30-second and 5-second little clips. Sometimes I think I would be better off if I just set the camera up in my living room, write down my thoughts. And because those videos, I mean, you see it, Matt, you talk about some sort of, a piece of equipment, and that's what people are doing, right? They're getting one and they're searching what memory card to use with the Z9. They're not, Googling, bird photography trip with Bayou Josh at the, the Teton Mountains or whatever it is. So it's like my storytelling and the effort that I put into a video. I feel like, man, this is ridiculous because I could sit in my living room, get twice as many views talking about autofocus systems.
Well, it depends what your long-term goal is, because that's certainly
I just want to have fun. Yeah.
The biggest frustration I have on YouTube is still that exactly what you said. If I do a weekend or a week of shooting to make some really detailed tutorial and then spend 3 days to edit, and it's a terabyte of data that went into it, that might get 10,000 views. If it's got a beautiful woman or a hot camera in it, maybe 20 or 30,000 views. If you just say, well, let's do the test. Hey guys, I have this new camera. Let's unbox it and tell you what I think from how it feels in my hand, having never switched it on. That'll get 50 or 100,000.
It's ridiculous.
But on the flip side, you'll on that video get so many people saying, oh, who cares about unboxing a camera? But you're here and you're commenting it, and that's what juices the algorithm, and the numbers just don't lie. I get so many comments about we want to see more tutorials, and then you do them and they just don't get the audience. But people who come to see the latest, hottest gear aren't necessarily sticking around. They're watching 10 videos, but people who are coming to watch your detailed Teton Mountains narrated videos, they're a fan of you. And they will stick around. So if you're trying to build a real community, I think it's better to have 10,000 subscribers and 10,000 views per video instead of 1 million if none of them actually are invested in you.
Yeah,
I've kind of a go ahead, Vahagan.
I was saying, was that an R3?
Yeah.
What do you plan on doing with that?
Unbox it and get 100,000 views. B&H sent it out to me. I haven't actually opened the box yet.
Oh, nice, man.
I've kind of adapted the 3-bucket philosophy, right? One of my buckets is I'm going to show you some camera crap, and I kind of muscle through it. Like, all right, here's how it works. You're welcome. My next one is, hey, I'm going to give a little bit of a tutorial, show you how something works, how I do stuff. And then, my next 2 videos for the month are for me. That's that third bucket is, I'm enjoying my time. I'm doing what I bought this camera for. And that is, seeking out those little critters and laying in the dirt and, and just relaxing my mind, right? Escaping from the stupidity of everyday life. But but YouTube, you were so right. I mean, you were absolutely correct in the fact that that's stupid. Those reviews, man, especially in October and November, I mean, they come out the woodworks for that stuff. And I get it. People search it. YouTube feeds it to them. And it starts feeding that little dang algorithm. It is frustrating. I agree.
No assistance? You're a one-man show?
It varies. So right now, I'm all on my lonesome. Last year I had 2 different part-time assistants, but I mean, it's the same in New York or Sydney as well. But the difficulty I had in Hong Kong was finding the right person, but then only giving them part-time work. Of course, they weren't specialist freelance videographers and editors. They were graduates from journalism or whatever. So ultimately, getting a full-time job in their field was their goal. So both of them eventually found that and left. But yeah, I'm at the point now where with the things I've got going on and then looking to restart doing tours, I have set out job descriptions this week actually to try and get someone full-time, and with the goal that, you know, the first couple of months you have someone that's basically a waste of money because they're just learning how to do stuff, and you're still spending as much time and they're not being very productive. So if someone stays for 3 months, it's just you've paid them 3 months to do a month's work. So I'm hoping
I'll apply. Okay, look, you're talking about me. All right, I'll apply for that position.
Whoa,
Matt.
Josh, I asked the
120 a year. You pay for my travel.
Don't be horning in on my job here, Josh.
If we're talking Hong Kong dollars, we could have a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully having it be a full-time job with you know, benefits and all the things that are expected in Hong Kong, but at a competitive salary, then I can get someone good who'll stick around. And I'm tossing up at the moment, getting a separate workspace again to try and get that third category of work-life balance together. Because at the moment, my office is 20 steps from my bedroom and living room. So at any, you know, I'll go back at 10 o'clock at night to keep doing stuff. If my workstation was in the office, then it might help me. It could force me to have a work-life balance, or it could mean that I'm taking Ubers at 9 o'clock at night because I forgot something I need to do.
Yeah.
So are you getting ready to start your tours again, or your trips again?
Well, to start planning them at least.
Okay.
I'm still working on the strategy, but there's a lot of variables to it, you know, finding the countries that are ready for it and have the facilities, but that are letting people in. It's basically the countries that are safe and ready for it aren't taking travelers.
Yeah.
And I have to think, out of all my previous guests, if I wrote to them and said, look, I'm doing a tour to Namibia next week or next year, I'm sure I can get 12 of them who are vaccinated and willing to be careful and all of that kind of thing. But the fact that we're all privileged and in that position, do I want to put the tribes we're going to visit at a risk of that we bring a virus from the city to their village? So I'm looking at different ways to do it where we could basically make a little bubble and run everything in the bubble, like not like a Vegas resort, but going somewhere, renting like a villa in France, and we book out the whole thing, and then we bring talent and do day trips here and there to make the whole tour without having to move locations or put people at risk. And the last thing I want, even if people are reasonable and super careful, you don't want one guest who's just 5% less careful than the others, where every day I have to say, Chuck, sorry, can you put your mask on? I'm sorry to ask again, Chuck.
You probably would.
On?
Don't invite anybody from Idaho.
Mike. Yeah, I know. Open air over there, you know, distance, big time. Hey, Michael, what's happening? He says, great to see you bringing people together like you do. Thank you, Michael. I like bringing people together, you know? So, Matt, you ever come to LA anytime soon? You want to come to LA? Los Angeles?
I was there last year. I would like to, but it's a mental health issue. I think whenever I'm traveling, I'm enjoying it, and then towards the end, I'm kind of sick of it and I want to get home. And as soon as I'm like on my way to the airport, I'm thinking about, so where am I going next? God damn it, I can't stay home for too long. I need to be somewhere again. So I would love to, but with what's going on now, the chance of having the same troubles I had from Australia to get home again are really high to go to the States. And the two places that I've got projects that I'm looking to finish are the States and the UK, which are the two major hotspots in Hong Kong's mind. So I have to make it worth it, basically. It's going to be 2 to 3 weeks in hotel quarantine on top of whatever other difficulties. One good thing about it is think, given that America is so much more relaxed about it now from an outsider's perspective, when I was in Sydney, almost all of the projects that I had on ended up getting cancelled because the person or someone they live with tested positive, and then they were isolating. So I ended up just kind of being in Airbnb, sitting around doing nothing. But I would like to get to the UK, LA, New York, and a couple of other places. But, I can't do it in a 10-day trip and then have 2 weeks in quarantine. So it's got to be like a month to make the quarantine worth it.
You used to live in America, right? For a while.
Yeah, in New York.
How long did you live here for?
4 years, pretty much exactly the Trump presidency.
And I'm an hour away. Why couldn't we have done this back then?
Sorry, Chuck?
I said, I'm an hour away from New York City. Why couldn't we have done this back then? I would love to have come down to meet you.
Oh, well, I was there. Sorry.
What?
Matt, I've got a question about those travel and those workshops. Are you using a third-party agency to help schedule and plan those events? I've had several of them reach out to me, and I'm a little leery of some of that.
No, I know Tony and Chelsea hosted one for a company as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say it's not for everyone. Like
Mm-hmm.
the logistics of running one, the process of being on one it's really not for everyone. Even if you love photography and you love people, you can, well, basically for the 2 weeks or however long it is, you're on call 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if everyone gets a little upset stomach or some sickness over the trip, it means it averages out to someone every day isn't feeling good that you have to take care of. So if you're a good host, in my opinion, you don't get that much shooting done. You're there. My job is to facilitate them getting the shot. So if there's someone who just got their new Z9 and they want to spend the whole time where at the cheaters having me explain the autofocus systems, that's what I got to do. I'm not getting photos of cheaters. I'm helping him get it.
But are you scheduling all of that yourself? Is that your
basically
world?
Yeah. Well, basically, yeah. But I always partner with a local guide because I'm not an expert in Bhutan or Namibia. I know more than the average person, but I don't speak the language for a starter. So we'll come up with so I run half of them myself. Well, let's pretend this is 2019. I run half of them, and then I have a partner in LA who I run the other half with. And then we'll still, like if it's Namibia, we have a company that will go back and forward, and he and I will go and do a recce trip, figure out what we want to do, and then with them, the hardest part is finding one who really gets what photographers want and our particular demands. That, okay, so it may be not convenient, but actually we need to be there at that time of day.
Yeah.
And okay, so there could be 4 hours variation in travel time depending on the conditions. So what are our backup plans? If we're running early, what can we do along the way? If we're running late, how can we move things around the next day so that we're at the right places at the right time for them to get their shots? So I don't use like an agency that does all of that for me, but like if we needed flights and stuff, we normally will do that ourselves, but then the local agent will help us get cars and that kind of thing. And it's kind of a mix. Some will do the hotels for us, some we do ourselves.
I have a question, another YouTube question for you, because we're in this YouTube thing. You mentioned B&H. They sent you the R3. For different companies, do you have a different type of agreement with them? It's like, do you have to mention the company on your video? How does what is some of the
they'll all have their own, but basically B&H will loan me stuff, and it's kind of the ideal situation. If I want to compare Sony, Nikon, Canon, Sigma, Tamron 85mm lenses, trying to get all of those companies to loan me what I want at the right time, it's impossible. And then if I say the Sigma's trash, well, then I never get Sigma stuff again. So B&H sends it. They really don't care. I can loan the latest, greatest thing and say, don't buy this. I think it's crap. They don't mind. They just want you to be honest.
Do they expect something back from you?
It's not like a formal, it has to be these words, this something, something.
Yeah.
But if I were, and I've heard this from them and I've heard this from other creators, I heard of a computer channel who would get all these parts from B&H, but then fill their caption with the Amazon links. If you keep doing that, they're going to stop loading your stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, I'll have links to B&H there. But then, if people are there because they want to buy an 85mm lens, so they can go and buy it somewhere else. And if I say 4 of them suck and 1 is good, in my opinion, and whether they believe me or not, or maybe they thought the Sony one was the best in the pictures, I don't feel it compromises me to share my opinion and then put the link in. And considering it lets you just make the video without any of those headaches of keeping egos happy, and I get it as well. If I'm a Sigma marketing rep, why do I keep sending stuff to someone who doesn't like our stuff? You wouldn't. There's demand for it. So for B&H, that's great. I also work with KEH, but we have a different kind of agreement. They're kind of sponsors of the video rather than just kind of loaning me the gear. So for that, we have most of those partnerships will have this is what we're focusing on, and this is the kind of thing we want to talk about. Or generally I'll put it in my own words, and then if what they were looking to promote doesn't work for me, then I'll just say it. But I have to say, all of the partners that I have that have been more than a one-off, they're smart about it. They know that the value of me isn't my beautiful bald head. It's that I'm authentic with my audience.
Yeah.
But it's not just the audience, it's the audience's trust in me. So them trying to put words in my mouth or have me say stuff that just isn't me, 1, I won't do it, but 2, it's not in their interest. If I suddenly were shooting something I've never shot, saying you absolutely have to have this whatever piece of equipment that obviously I don't really even know how to use, it's bullshit, and it's not going to be worth it. So they want you to just be authentic.
Do you call and say, hey, B&H, I want to make a video of this camera, send it over? Or do they offer you, do they give you ideas?
B&H, I've been working with them for so long. I have to say, for B&H, they have a bunch of different affiliate, or I forget what they call it, partner managers. And it really is they call it like a customized personal service. It really is. So my guy, I consider him a friend now. We catch up with each other on what's going on in our personal lives and that kind of thing. And essentially, if for the R3, I asked, I just emailed and said, could you send me one out? There's just automated emails that are like, the OM1's just been announced or this or that. So they don't ever say, actually, occasionally they might say, do you want to check this out? But there's never any pressure. I can always say no. And they're pretty good. I don't know if the R3 is still back ordered, but I probably wrote in December saying, when it's available, I'd love to check it out. And then a month later, he said, the buyer's been able to get you one. I'll send it. Sometimes it just arrives and I forget, it's a month later and I had forgotten that I'd asked for it, or I wasn't expecting a package, which is, as a camera geek, kind of awesome. But to be clear, so all of that stuff, if I've been paid, then I'll disclose it and I'll say they're a sponsor. But for B&H, I'm not keeping that R3. I don't know what they do with it afterwards, but I'm going to test it and then send it back.
You're not going to sign it and send it back?
I think, I guess they're not reselling them as new, but I don't think my signature is going to
forget it.
Value.
Yeah, it's a Canon. Forget it.
This may sound crazy, Matt, but does that ever become a burden with all the different things and products that are being sent to you to look at? I mean, other than the ones that you're asking for.
Well, no one sends me something that I don't ask for. I won't give them my address.
Oh,
yeah.
So every day I see so many
YouTubers
5 or 10 requests.
I see so many YouTubers that talk about that. They just got somebody sent them something, take a look at it, blah, blah, blah.
That's not actually the way it works. Yeah. I mean, they reach out to you and they ask you. There's a lot of people that want you to try their stuff. I've learned that those people aren't the ones you really want to be doing stuff for. And Matt might be able to speak to that on another level. But I've just gone through the whole sponsorship routine here recently with a few different companies, and I'm in a different place than Matt, and I mean all of us are in different places. But I've got a full-time job. I've got a career, and it would take a lot of damn YouTube views to replace what I do for a living. So I don't see YouTube as like an end game, to get out of my career. But I do have a brand, right? I mean, Matt's got a brand. We all have a brand. And I think more importantly, it's trying to identify people that, you can partner up with that kind of share your values. And, B&H is a great company. All these camera companies, of course, see us as people that interact with our audience. They trust us like they trust Matt. But, do you want to become, that guy who is just a spokesperson for one company, right? So there's a balance in all of that. And for me, it's all about trying to figure out who represents me as a brand. Like my brand's different than Vahagraphy or Chuck or Matt. And I think all of us are unique in that situation. But man, it's tough. It's tough going through that whole process. And I know 11 years into it, Matt's probably seen the good and the bad of all of it. But 1 year into it, I've already seen that some people are just worried about themselves, and they just want access to your audience, and they're willing to give you the least amount of money possible to do that.
Yeah,
So,
or the cheapest piece of junk product
exactly.
that you didn't ask for instead of payment. But to answer your question about a burden, Chuck, there is probably another side to it. If, for example, like I'm trying to think who's come, like if I can't think of a good example, but if you're working with a brand and you've had only good experiences, but then they come into hot water, even though you're not a staff member or a spokesperson, you're going to field questions about what has gone on, and that could become an issue. So, I get people who will be frustrated that they ordered their Z9 from B&H and it hasn't come. What's going on? I got an email yesterday saying, what the hell's going on at B&H? And I had to reply, why are you asking me? I don't know. You have a buyer's email, ask them. I don't know. But yeah, in that sense, it could become a burden. And, in terms of a burden, in terms of adding to workflow, I'd say the biggest burden is the number of unsolicited, bulk, stupid emails for TAT that come through. I think like 2 or 3 years ago, I did a video where I just said yes to every one of them for a month. And then I reviewed everything in one video. And it was just, USB speakers and Bluetooth speakers and all kinds of
God. I wish I could reach some of that crap right now. I've got behind me. I'm like, Jesus, stop sending me this stuff.
Yeah. But basically they won't send it unless you're asking them to. And I just make it clear, if I didn't contact you, if you want me to, sometimes if I think it's like quirky or interesting, or just that my audience may be really interested, or I'm personally interested, then maybe I'll do it. But I'm trying to make it super clear to the audience and to any partner that if it's a review, you can't pay me. Like I won't do a review and you give me cash on top of that. You can't pay me. And I'll be honest, and you get no feedback on what I say. You get no review. You don't get to see it before it goes live. That's a review. Yeah. So if I think it's crap, I'm going to tell people, and I'll write this in the email. If I think it's crap, I'll tell people not to buy it. That's a review. If I think it's great, I'll tell them I think it's great. If it's a promotion where your goal is to have me try and help you sell it, then you need to send it to me so I can see if it's any good. And then we'll agree on some terms. And depending, maybe they get to check the video, but they still don't get to change my words or that kind of thing. If I got the specifications wrong, then you can let me know and I'll fix that up. But sometimes there's been occasional times where I agree to do a promotion and then I test it out. I'm just like, I can't promote this. Like, I can't say that this is great. Sure, I can say it does these 2 great things, but the rest of it's just shit and it's 10 times overpriced. So
that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of you've interviewed a lot of industry people in your videos. You sat down with many. Any particular person you've talked to on some of your videos that just stand out for you? Like,
So back in the day, I did something like this, but one-on-one with photographers. So I met a lot of, well, all of them were people that I wanted to meet. So they were all great. It's a kind of an embarrassing chat because of how poorly I did and how badly it's filmed. But the early one I did with Jason Boland, who is the Nikon cinema photographer that I mentioned, was great in hearing his backstory. At Photokina, I got the chance to chat to some like more industry hands-on type technician people. And there's one called something like lens design with a Zeiss master. That was incredible. He was like a, I don't know, like a, you know, when you hear one of those scientists speak who's just so amazing, but then they're also so enthusiastic and able to communicate it with a lay person. It was that kind of vibe. So that one was pretty great. But I mean, yeah, most, not everyone, but most people who are at those high level positions or experts in their field, they are interesting to talk to. If you find, well, if you're into it, if you're not interested in lenses, then it would be the most boring thing in the world. But if you're interested in it, and I am a camera nerd at the end of the day, and I love mechanical stuff, whether it's vintage lenses or wristwatches or old cars, then for me, it's interesting.
I loved your interview with Gray's from Westminster.
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think of them? They're just exclusive Nikon shop.
They also, I think, sell Fuji, Think Tank, and a few other things, but pretty much they're known as a Nikon shop. Yeah, if you get a chance to go there, I mean, it's not like going somewhere where you're going to then try and haggle on price or whatever. It's like going to Savile Row to buy a suit. They don't charge a premium over retail, but it's, you know, it's full retail. But then they also have everything in the basement, like every limited edition F3 that's ever been made. They have them available there for sale. It's a time machine, to be honest. And Gray is like, you meet him and you just think, oh, I need to buy a suit. Like, he's such a gentleman. He's like,
Really?
yeah, he's
I could sit and listen
he's
to
an
him
amazing
for
man.
hours.
Yeah. So
they have
you know,
everything except for Z9s right now. By the way, their weekly report is like, yeah, we've got 2 coming, and they're spoken for. But they are such a class act. I love watching them. They just classy people. Classy.
That's the right word for it. You know, it's like when you meet an old money or a new money person, they're like old money. They'll have a gift ready for you, and they've got, you know, your favorite drink that you had last time. They've already got it in the fridge ahead of time, and they checked on your recent videos. So then they have something to chat about. You know, they go to that effort. So it's and everyone in the store is like that. And everyone I think that I met in the shop knew way more about the gear than I did. Like, you can find the 18-year-old guy or girl who's only been there a year, and they can still talk to you about the vintage stuff. And
that's wonderful.
If you have a question, they'll actually get back to you. You know, I think they probably spend 10 times on customer service what other companies do. So it's an experience to go there. Really nice guy.
You need to get Gray on for an interview, because he cut his teeth on band photography.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I just had Becky and Con on.
Okay,
very cool. But I've heard, yeah. Well, in LA, the retail here, some of the guys are, if you don't buy anything, they don't want to waste their time. You know,
that's the American way, Vahagan. It's the American way.
If you pay me,
you're not building relationships of trust here. You're like, give me your money and get the hell out of here. But
you're a line on my balance sheet.
Exactly right.
One, I forgot what his name was, but he asked a question. He was like, any new projects in your future that you have not yet attempted to do, but you want to start? Or new style of photography.
Oh, kitty cat.
Hey,
Well, it's not a little one. It looks like its torso is about as big as yours.
Yeah,
It
that is a
is.
big cat.
He's
That is a big
huge.
cat.
He comes in
wow,
here aggravating me. He has to get his time.
that's a
How are
huge.
you
All right,
not
good.
covered in orange fur all the time?
Yes. Brush daily.
What a beefcake. I don't know who that last question was for, but I'll take it.
It was in the
I'm-
beginning. Oh, Matt, it's for it was for all of you guys. But a new project that you haven't touched yet that you want to
I've got a
start?
couple of projects that I'm planning to get into this year. There's not many that are like new that I've never shot them, but I'm gonna make a new book and I've got a couple of series that I need to finish off, so that's not new. But personally, and I probably put it on YouTube, but not for any client stuff, I personally want to get out and shoot more birds. So that would be another excuse to
Come visit me, man. It's all we do.
travel more.
100% of the time.
I thought you promised me beaver.
Yeah, well, not the kind of beaver you're thinking of, but no, I'm kidding. Yeah,
What's the difference between a beaver and an otter? Beavers make dams.
Yeah, beavers make dams, and they don't. They chew on a lot of wood. Otters don't chew on as much wood. But yeah, I was chasing them
Zinga.
suckers tonight. I see evidence of them, but never the beaver. Yeah, So my YouTube is a hobby, right? I mean, it's an attempt to kind of just capture these little moments. And I feel like, there's a lot of YouTube professionals out there that are professional photographers, they're professional YouTubers, they hold workshops, and man, that is awesome. But 99.9% of the people that watch them are guys like me, right? We have a job, we have a family, we're not traveling all over the world. So my projects are always trying to figure out how to meet those people where they are, right? Instead of razzle dazzle, hey, here's where I am, come check me out. My project is always, how do I connect with the guy who just bought $6,700 camera and spent the last 3 days out in the field and barely got 2 shots, right? That emotional feeling of what it feels like to spend a lot of money on camera gear and you don't have enough time to use it. And I don't know. So I guess projects is such an interesting reference, because my whole life is a project. I go to work, and when I get off work, I'm like, hey, let's play. And I just want to connect with people that are like me. Because you spend a lot of money, you've worked your ass off for that camera, you worked your ass off for that lens, you're sneaking up on 50, you're like, I want to treat myself. And I can find some great videos. Matt does a fantastic job of showing me how the memory cards work and the autofocus works, but how do I feel emotionally when it's all done? Right. Anyway, that's my space, and I'll shut up.
That's cool.
There's a question in there, Vahagan. Did you see it?
I was
Talking about the 85 millimeter, the Z.
the 1.2.
No, I think he's talking about the 1.8 since that's out.
I didn't see it.
Is that about the price? Was that Ched Davis?
Yes.
I've heard some folks say the Z85 is nice, but overpriced. Would 600 be reasonable for a like new copy? I guess someone's saying that the new one is about 800. That's the funny thing with the Zs. It was always that the 1.8 was a real signal that it's just not at the same level. But the 50 and 85 1.8s, I think, the 51.8 is definitely better than the 51.4 was in F mount. Optically, it's a better lens. Yeah, I mean, but I can appreciate $800 is still a lot of money, but wait until your choice is the 1.8 or the 1.2, and then the 1.8 is going to seem like a bargain.
So, question: the 51.2 versus 51.8. What do you tell these people that say, "Shit, should I invest $2,000 more or whatever the difference is?" What's your suggestions on that?
Don't test the 1.2. Actually, I did a video comparing all of them, including the Noct. And it was basically, yes, each one is better, but it's just going to be down to your budget. So now I use the 1.8 mostly for video and the 1.2 for stills. Or if it's like a heavily backlit situation, then I'll use the 1.2 because it's that much better. But yeah, the 1.8 is already a great lens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's cheap. I mean,
relatively, yeah.
You can buy it for
still
like
a lot more than the 1.4 was on F, but still.
I'm still on the fence on the 1424 Z versus the 1430. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to spend the extra money on the.
But you're a wedding photographer, so I can understand that. I mean, for me,
I'm not
14
only
to 30,
a wedding photographer.
but the 14 to 30 is fantastic. I mean, you're talking just a stop a difference in light. So
I think like that focal length, depth of field doesn't matter that much, right? 14 to 30.
No.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. My concern is not the bokeh, it's the
not unless you get right edges up in front of it and everything behind you goes blurry. Because this is the 14 to 30 that I'm looking into.
But they're smart. They segment things with more in mind than that. So depending on how you use it, the 2.8 will be better sealed, probably faster to focus, more contrasty, softer blur if that does bother you. It's not just a stop of light that you're getting. They know that, and when you test it, you can see the difference. Same like if it was just about the aperture difference, 1.2 versus 1.8, no way it's worth an extra $2,000. But but it's diminishing returns, and I guess that depends on your income. If you have $1 million to just indulge in hobbies, then why not get the Noct if you've got the time and patience as well? But if you've got a big budget, then the 1.2 is awesome. If you're, still, if you have a big budget, because it's not cheap, the 1.8 is great. So, and then it's kind of the reverse. How much weight do you want to lug around, and the issues that come with that?
Well, going back to the 1430 discussion, the edges, the 1424 versus 2.8 versus the 1430, distortion wise. Have you tested both?
It's not.
What?
So I've got a question before you get into all that. You're taking pictures for a client, and I would think, optically, you might be able to tell the difference, right? You might pick up those two lenses, but if you're presenting this to a bride and her family, can she tell the difference, right? So I'm thinking of what is the point of diminishing returns in a profession of, wedding photography or portrait photography? Can your client tell the difference between a 1.8 and a 1.2? Is it worth $2,000? How many clients do you have to book before that 1.2 now makes a difference? Is that a fair question to ask? Because I don't take pictures of people. I mean, my birds never ask. The elk has never asked me, hey, is that an F4 or an F5.6?
Distorting my snout.
I mean, does it matter to clients? I mean, have you seen a tangible difference in their perception of your work because of a 1.2 or 1.8?
No, clients don't matter. It doesn't matter to clients. It matters to your eye, though.
Yeah.
Distortion, lines.
It's one of those things. I think we get wrapped around the axle sometimes on the smallest of things, and when it really wouldn't matter for what we're doing. But it goes back to, what do you need? What do you want? If you want a 2.8 versus an F4, then you got to get it, or you won't be happy. It's just one of those things.
Well, so let me back you up a little bit. First of all, wrapped around the axle, that is such a term my dad used to use, which makes me wonder if we're related. But but the second thing is, like, for a wildlife guy, I can see how a guy would justify a 400 millimeter 2.8 versus a 500 millimeter 5.6. You're staying out 2 hours longer to photograph birds, right? Because you're getting 2 more stops of light. You're not shooting at 6400 ISO. You're shooting at 1600 ISO. So wildlife, I can see how we can actually justify it, but 1.8 and 1.2, I mean, I've had a 1.4 lens and a 1.8, and I'm like, I can't tell the difference. I mean, and maybe because I'm an idiot, but I just, that f 1.2 50 millimeter, I've seen all the reviews. I've seen your reviews, Matt. I've seen yours, Vahagen. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, but I mean, God dang it, $2,000 versus $496.
Well, then
two parts to it.
Go
sorry,
ahead.
do you want to go ahead?
There's those that are looking for the largest aperture for light. And then there are those that are looking at that for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
What about
Okay.
bragging rights?
I think there's a lot
there
of
you
that.
go too. Absolutely. Absolutely. But my point is, it's so hard to give people advice. I hate when those questions come up, and it always comes down to just buy what you want. I can't tell you what you need.
Yeah.
I think your point before was right on, Josh, about will the client care? Is the investment justified from that point of view? If you're doing, well, if you're kind of getting started or in the middle of your developing your wedding or portrait career, or if you're doing it as a hobby, that's the right way to look at it. But at a point, and this kind of comes back to what we said about the Z9 to begin with, at a point, it's also what do you enjoy using? Mm-hmm. And I still, sorry to be a broken record, but there's a lot more difference between a 1.2 and a 1.8 lens than price and aperture and depth of field. The flare control, the whole optical thing is different. Yeah. And once you're out shooting with it, you might find that the 1.8 is perfect because I can take it more places and it's light and whatever. But you might find that you'll find the aberrations more easily on that, or that you just, like Chuck was saying, that you enjoy it. So we can kind of be hard on ourselves and each other sometimes, but there's bragging rights, or is it just that you enjoy it? We buy the car that we enjoy. None of us are fashionistas, but we're all wearing clothes that we feel comfortable in or that we think look slimming or whatever.
Yes.
It's not vanity. It's just we all choose and buy and use what we enjoy to use. So just go for it. We don't need to shit on each other for, do you need that? Well,
amen,
I earn
buddy.
the money. So
amen. Thank you.
Exactly. I don't need a Lamborghini to go to the grocery store, but if you like it.
I'd like one.
Yeah, me too.
Look, people buy Rolex. I mean, you don't need a Rolex to tell time.
That's right.
But they enjoy it. They enjoy the watch. It's an investment, and it truly is. Mm-hmm. But as far, there you go.
There you go. Is that a Mariner?
I know you have a few of those, but
that's a GMT.
Oh, GMT. Yeah, nice.
But my point is, I just Matt, I just bought a 600 FL, and I'm mostly wedding photography.
But you're shy. You like to keep your distance.
Yeah, and people ask me, "Are you going to shoot the ceremony from across the street?" I mean, no.
The COVID lens.
Yeah, I didn't buy it for work. I bought it for pure, just pleasure.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, that should sum it up right there. I mean, that there really is no other argument beyond that. You just want it. That simple. Yeah.
I bought it because it makes me happy. I mean, I could have went with the money and put it on a brand new watch. But
now the argument that I do appreciate, because I've been there, right? You're a 37-year-old guy with 3 kids. You just told your wife, hey, I want to get into photography. I've got a $2,500 budget. Now I could talk for 2 hours on, what's the best lens to buy for wildlife photography and what camera. But if you, and I've said this in one of my videos, if you've got an unlimited budget, go buy yourself a Z9 and a 600 f4, and you take a trip to Africa, and you're going to be happy, right? I mean, that's not the question people are asking. The question people are asking is, I've got, $1,150 that I saved up for 4 months. Help me make the best decision. And I appreciate that, right? I mean, we have to understand that, we're not on some island. We can spend whatever we want. So yeah, bring those questions on, and I'm happy to answer them. But the other one is that if you want it, you got the money, freaking buy the best.
I guess that's my complaint is you roll into a forum and talk about what you bought, and immediately all the financial advisors that are former photographers are telling you what you did wrong and why you shouldn't, and do you really need it, as if it's any of their business. You're right, Josh. If the person approaches you with that question, that's different. But hey, I just got the Z9. Well, do you need it?
Yeah.
Do you need it?
No, congratulations.
Yeah. Well, we're public right now too. And I'm sure you've all experienced that. I mean, I went through another YouTuber's channel the other day who had, they obviously have money. I mean, we can talk about it offline, but my God, some of the comments people started saying about it must be nice to have a BMW and 4, $30,000 camera setups. I'm like,
it is.
Shut up, dude. It is nice. They got money.
Nice. And so what it really, and I get pangs of it too sometimes. It is, I think at some level, it's just jealousy. Like, I think I know who you're talking about. And
sure,
I am just kind of proud and inspired by people who've been really successful and now have the money to buy what they want and go where they want and do what they want or retire early. It's amazing. But the first time I met one of my tour guests, I don't think he's watching.
Let's check.
He came to Africa and had the full Nikon kit and owns all the telephoto lenses.
Mm-hmm.
I think he owned all of them. He had a Leica kit and owns pretty much all of the Leica lenses. And his son was shooting Leica medium format and had all of the lenses. And it was just jealousy when I saw it. It's like, you've got 100 grand of cameras with you, and this is a hobby that you've been doing a year. But then when I heard his life story and was like, well, you're exceptional and you've built these companies and now you're worth a fortune and you earned it, that's just inspiring. So
good
don't
for
be
him
a bitch about it. He's enjoying his money.
Absolutely.
And
good for them.
Yeah.
And if I hit the lottery one day, I'd still be into photography.
That's the example I always use, actually, the Lamborghini, like the do you need it argument. Well, I'm not a racing car driver, but when my income hits $1 million, I'm going to have a sports car. And I don't give a shit if I can take it around the Nürburgring like Schumacher would have. I'm going to have a big smile on my face.
Good on you, man. Good on you.
You can afford a Z9, but you have a Z5's, experience, then cool, enjoy it.
I'll tell you from experience though. And, I'm careful the way I say this, but, sometimes you get what you want and you realize it wasn't the getting that mattered. It was the chase. Right. I remember for my 40th birthday, there was a sports car I really wanted and I got it. And I was like, okay, now what? Right. So it was like that dream of having those posters on my wall as a kid and, having all those books. And then when it was sitting in my driveway, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. But Jesus, it just cost me $3,200 to replace a air oil separator. And you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think for us as men, especially, and I think it's sometimes it's very gender specific, is we are hungry for the chase, right? What's next? What's the next thing that I can work towards? Exactly. Conquest. Exactly. Conquer.
Yeah. A buddy of mine is all into eating out and drinking fine liquor. He sits down and he orders the best. Like, I'm talking $300 shots of Louis. Yeah, he's just all into that. He'll spend his money eating out and drinking and going out and traveling.
Yeah, good for him.
That's all he cares about, and he's not even making that much money, but he's spending it on himself and his family. So.
I can only use myself as an example. I can't speak for anybody else. However, I have had bullets overhead. Let me tell you, that's not a pleasant experience. I've been to some of the worst places in the world doing my job. And this is my thing, and I'm not trying to convince anybody that I've done this the right way or anything. But the point is who are we to judge when people just come in and offer what they're looking for, what they're buying, or what they just bought? It just aggravates me at times that people want to judge them. You're right, Matt. It's probably jealousy among other things. But hey, if you can afford it and you want it, then get it. I'm not one that's going to sit down with you and try to reason through whether you need it or anything else. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, no,
But back to the point, if you have $2,500 and you want to know what to buy, and I've been in that situation. I've had $2,500 and I'm like, this is all I've got.
It was an oil water separator, right?
Yeah,
That's what you
an
ended
air
up
oil
buying.
separator for a Porsche 911. Exactly. No, but no, I'm seriously though, camera wise, I understand being on a budget and trying to get the most for your money. And I feel like we're all here for that. You know, if you have those questions, feel free to ask, but because that's a tough situation. Not a tough, it's a privileged situation to be in, that you can spend that kind of money on your hobby, because it's a beautiful hobby. Beautiful
The
hobby.
only caveat that I'll make to that, and this is for all four of our benefit, having had 12 years of those questions, please, if you, I'm very happy to help as well, and kind of feel honored to be able to help. And it is that kind of a question is worthwhile. Can I just suggest that you summarize, like in a sentence or two, this is what I shoot, this is what I have, this is the limitations that I'm finding, and these are the options that I'm looking at. And don't send me that email when you've already bought something and you're just looking for validation, because when I put in the time to write out a reply and then send it, and it's like one day after they sent it to me, then I get a reply back, oh, that's good to hear, it arrives tomorrow. It's like, well, why are you wasting my time? You already bought it. And we don't, I'm sorry, I don't want to be impersonal, but a 4-page email where it's just kind of talking about your feelings about equipment or not narrowing the field. I can't review every brand for you. So having those criteria, then I'm super happy to make a recommendation of, if you shoot this, consider that kind of thing. But just keep it kind of specific, and definitely mention what you're shooting and what limitations you're finding. Because if you just say, I shoot with a D850 and I shoot architecture, what should I get next? Well, that's still a really broad question. Knowing what the limitations you're hitting is important.
Tell them a Rolex. You should get a Rolex next. That's
the only way is up, baby.
Good point. That's right. Very good point.
I want a Skydweller. I can't find one. Damn it.
Hey, come and ask me. I'm going to make your day. I'm going to say yes, buy it.
Yeah.
I want the blue dial, Matt. Blue dial.
Yeah, good luck with that. I've got the black dial.
You have a Skydweller?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right.
Deal.
Do you need it?
Yeah. Let me just check my app.
Need is such a subjective
word. Up about 90% since I bought it.
Wait, the stainless steels are hard to get, man. Those are just out of stock everywhere. Nobody wants the gold ones. They want the stainless steel ones, and
I don't think you can get gold either. There's nothing available in Rolex now. I don't think even women's pieces or platinum.
Yeah, that's crazy. I have a question about reviews, lens reviews. Do you find it beneficial to just, when you're making a review for a lens, talk about, get to the point, show sample images, and then get out? Or do you like to take your time and, for someone like us just getting into it, what would you suggest doing? I want to put out better content, but I also want to get ahead. So do you suggest me spending time on one? I guess what I'm trying to say is quantity over quality over quantity.
You can do it either way. You can kind of focus on how it was to shoot and like giving your opinion on how the focus was and how enjoyable it was, or if it had difficulty, that kind of thing. Or you can do the kind of more immersive one where you show through the viewfinder what you were shooting so people can see the shooting experience. Or there's the output side, which is the technical, how is the image quality. So these days I try to do some blend of both. So my ideal, and I've done all kinds, sometimes it's super boring, here's a static subject, let's compare X to Y lens. But the ideal for me is to go shoot something I'm interested in, make a fun half day out of it, try to make the video have some kind of a vlog type feel to it. So like we're going to the aviary or we're going to a dance studio, and here's the people and here's what we're doing and here's a bit of the behind the scenes, that kind of thing. Which is also great for me, because then if I'm shooting with Vahagen and I make that into a YouTube video, but also I'm making a downloadable course on portraits, then I can do both of them at the same time and use the YouTube video to promote the sellable one. But then something I find a lot of people really find valuable is giving sample files. You don't need to give a technical perspective on it other than I thought this was better or 1.4 was better than 1.2, whatever. But if you give the files, anyone who really gives a damn can check it for themselves.
Yeah.
And
I think the key word is there's so many people have a different opinion of what they want, right? I mean, you're not going to make everyone happy. And as soon as you realize that and you just kind of meet people, hell, forget about meeting people, just give an honest review. And I think people relate to that more so than anything, right? I mean, I've seen reviews where I'm like, God, dude, just be yourself. I mean, I've watched, I can't even
walking
make it through
the tightrope.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, tell me how you feel about it, right? I mean, nobody, not 100% of the people are not going to be happy with your review. That's why even your best videos, have some thumbs down, right? I mean, I've thumbed down some videos before because that's not what I wanted to see. And that's the beauty of YouTube. But I think relating to people, and Matt does that well, just relate to people. And that's where it's at.
Yeah. Josh has got a very structured workflow when it comes to schedule, like uploading a video. You
Every
know that
Friday.
Josh, it's Friday morning. We're expecting a Josh video. And I know you asked Matt about, your content and what's next for you. I think you have a very good niche going with the narration and the birds and the wildlife that I think people expect that. And they watch your videos for the relaxation thing too.
Well, I mean, it's a duplicatable is, and sorry, Matt, but duplicatable for me is the key, right? I mean, I don't know enough about cameras, and you're going to realize that one day about me, that I'm no camera professional. I'm winging it half the times, but when I take a picture and I know I like it and it's pretty, that's fun. And I'm not asking you to tell me how good my pictures look. I just want you to come along with me and share in the experience of getting the shot, right? I mean, it's what really bugs me, and this is kind of one of the reasons I started a YouTube channel. I can't stand a guy who gets on YouTube and then he's automatically a subject matter expert on something, right? And people look at, oh, he must know because he's got 21,000 views on that video. That dude's just a dude sitting in his living room, right? So I try not to portray that at all. I'm just your friend, and I'm out photographing birds, and I hope you enjoy tagging along with me. But some people are professionals, right? There are some people that their entire life, all they've done is professional photography. I'm going to put a lot of value in that, right? But don't try to mislead me. You're a 29-year-old guy who, worked at an oil change place last week, and now you're a professional photographer. We can see through that. So genuine, in my opinion, is what matters more than anything. Don't try to mislead me.
I think that applies to all of it. It was something I was going to say before. It's why I haven't seen like dozens of all your guys' videos, but I think it's why we can all just have a relaxed chat like this.
Sure.
When you're asking Vahagen, should we do this kind of video or that kind of video? It's kind of the same way of answering should I buy this or that lens to a viewer? Yeah. The only advice I would give is be authentic and be yourself. Right. Because imagine if that Chuck was acting to be a war hero, but actually he was like some, city slicker, and then Josh was actually like some hard ass, and Vahagen was super shy, and I was pretending to be this slick, suave guy. Then we all have to be acting for an hour and a half. Yeah, it'd be a fucking nightmare. So
it'd be miserable.
Just like this way that you respect that Josh has a set timetable, and you introduced him to me privately about how great his narration videos are. That's what he does. So now that's what people know him to do. So you should do your lens reviews in a way that makes sense to you, and refine it over time based on feedback you get to what makes sense for you. And then you'll be known as doing it that way. And that's the right way then.
Yeah, but
Amen.
that's a good point, and I want to piggyback off your answer to this question because I want to direct the question to Matt about Josh. Okay, the question is: he's at a point where he's on fire. Josh, his site is taking off. What advice would you give him at this point of his channel? It's just taking off at a fast rate. What advice? Because you've been there, done that. Give him some advice, and let me piggyback, and let me listen to some advice you can give Josh at this level of where he's at right now.
Well, it'd be easier if it was him asking it, because then I would have an idea of what the dilemma is that he was.
Matt, give me some
facing.
advice on how I'm.
No, as far as like monetization, making money, not what he should shoot.
So
I'm talking about the business side.
I wonder if this is really a question for you or for him, because it sounds like he has an excellent job. He has.
I'm talking about just YouTube.
He enjoys. I know he has a hobby he enjoys, and he's found a great niche. So I wouldn't try and accelerate it too fast. If it keeps growing, you're going to get more offers. But it sounds like you've kind of got a balance where you're struggling for time. But like, how far would your channel need to go before you're really thinking about quitting your job? Like earning a couple of $100,000 a year from it or something? That's gonna, you're gonna kill yourself to grow it to that level alongside a high-end job that you have already. So I don't know. It sounds like he's doing it already. I would say maybe a smart way to monetize it without having to kill yourself with hours is you identify who are the people you want to work with and approach them. So you don't want a plastic iPhone holder and you don't need a Bluetooth speaker and this and that, but it sounds like you need some awesome stabilization. Go contact those companies and then see if you can get that $6,000 rig for free or for a big discount. And every time you use it, you can mention thanks to Pro Media Gear for sending me this gear out. You can see the difference it's made in my, you can talk authentically about I was struggling with this and this lets me do that. It fits your audience perfectly. So basically look at what you want and what would be the brands that you that's how I kind of go about it. If it's a product that I really want, then it's just an authentic and obvious potential partnership, because I need another 10 terabytes of fast SSDs. So if there's a brand that offers a solution to my problem, that's the right product for me to be working with. And then, as that grows, potentially there's money in that. But anyway, if you're not buying the tripods and you're getting them, that's essentially money.
Yeah, very true.
If it was something you were going to buy.
Yeah, and I've thought about that a lot, and I've actually reached out to several companies, and I've got an open dialogue with a couple of companies, and I 100% appreciate that point of view. Sometimes I realize, Jesus, do I want to spend this much time going back and forth over a $1,100 piece of equipment, or should I just go buy it and be done with it? Right. I mean, so there's the time value equation. Because, I got to be careful how I say stuff. I mean, I worked my ass off, for 22 years, I've been in a profession, and, I've got a reputation. I've got tomorrow morning, I got to get up and go negotiate a deal that, I'm saying, it has nothing to do with photography at all. And I got to recalibrate my brain. Do I really want to, spend 7 emails back and forth with whoever, some aperture light company for a freaking light that I could just go buy? You know what I mean? So there's always that time value equation. And
I think a lot of professionals
and I want it to
have
be
that
fun
mindset about what your time is worth. I think everyone should have an idea of what their time is worth. So in your project management, if you're going to go and meet with a company for 2 hours to save $100, it's a waste of time. Your time's worth more than
exactly.
that. But for hobby stuff, you kind of also have to have that equation in mind. So it's, once you get too out of balance, family time may actually be worth $1,000 an hour to you because you just don't have enough of it. It's a scarcity thing. but maybe if photography is fun, then maybe your time is in a sense worth less. That 15 minutes to save $50, it could be worth it, or it could get you. The other thing is it could get you access to new different stuff that you just wouldn't be able to.
Very
true.
Then
getting into, it would make sense for you to do some tripod reviews. So then having a relationship with a tripod company has longer term potential advantages for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally get you. Like I have a number that to me, my time is worth. And sometimes it's like, well, I'm glad we got to a final deal because we've spent more time on getting the deal done than it's going to take me to execute it. But
yes,
the other thing is you'll have 10 that don't come off that just waste half a day of time to get to that one that does. So yeah.
How do you feel about collaborations?
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh. I said a lot of YouTubers are doing that as far as like making videos together, special series and this and that. I think it's kind of cool. I always tell people if you're ever in LA, let's do a video together. It'll be fun, So yeah, so this was great. You guys have any last questions for Matt Granger?
Man, do I?
Advised. And I'm sorry we never met. You said you're an hour from New York. Where do you live?
In Connecticut, up near Danbury.
Okay. Oh, that's up towards Tony and Chelsea as well, I think.
Oh, yeah. We're close friends.
Oh, nice.
Joe McNally, too. He lives about 10 miles from me.
No, I'd be fanboying out.
No, I don't do that. But I would have come down to see you if I had met you like this. I would have come down.
Well, when I get back over, I'll let you all know. I don't know that I'll make it to Idaho, but I do want to get to some non-coastal centers, and I would actually love to go to some of the national parks. So
yeah, Yellowstone, 4 hours from here. Come on.
I've not been to any actually. Oh no, I went to. Is Yellowstone where the sequoia are?
No, that's California.
Yeah,
it's California.
Right, yeah. I did go there, but it was 30 years ago.
That's okay. College students here didn't know either. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Matt. If you ever make it to Yellowstone or Idaho, you've got a place to sleep. Just send me a message, and I'll make sure. Right? It's a van. It's a van. Actually, it's in the driveway.
Lovely. Well, better that than a 911.
Right. Well, that's tough to sleep in. To sleep in.
Thank you. That's very kind. And if you guys ever come to Hong Kong, let me know. I don't know how likely that is, but yeah, as soon as it's viable. I mean, even before I lived in the States, I love the States and I have so many great friends there. If there weren't these travel restrictions, I would probably be there 3 months a year at the moment. So it'll happen. It's just a matter of when.
Can't wait for that to end. That's gotten ridiculous. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, you're genuine. You're on here talking to us, and that means a lot. And I think the audience realizes that too. And it goes a long way in the community, seeing you here with us. And again, I want to thank you for all the information that you put out while we were starving for information about the Z9. And it's all held up. And I've used your recommendations on several things. And I'm looking at your tutorial or for the Z cameras. And so, hey, that's it. I want to let you know humbly that I'm impressed.
I want to personally thank you for your 2013 review of the Nikon D3200. I'm kidding. I just remember how many YouTube videos I watched before I made that purchase. Like, is the D3200 the right camera for me? Oh my gosh.
It's funny when you get a comment like that of, I loved your something so specific, and you think, how are they even remembering that? But I'll see if I can find the link. Someone sent me one. I had forgotten I made it, but I made a video comparing I don't even remember. There were two ILC mirrorlesses, like a Sony and a Canon or something. And the video was like a minute long where it goes, today we're going to compare this versus this, run titles. And I came back and said, you should definitely buy this one. This one's no good. Okay, bye. That was the video.
That's my kind of video right there. That's good stuff.
I remember the 85 when you were comparing the 85G to I think it was a Sigma. I forgot, but it was a good review, and your 200 F2 videos were awesome too.
Yeah,
that's what made me buy them.
Fanboying. I bet you love it as much as I do.
Oh yeah, that's you're part of the reason why I own one. So you made Nikon a lot of money over the years. I'll tell you that.
Well, they're sold out at the moment. And I got another person writing saying, where can they find one? So if you're looking for one, I saw that B&H had one used, but they're sold out of new. And apparently Grays must have them if they have everything but Z9s.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome lens.
I'm honestly looking at the D3200 preview video that you posted 9 years ago to see if I left a comment. I don't know if I
a preview video. Whoa,
should I
had
buy
early
this?
access on that one.
I just
That's
remember
where the
that
4-page email came from.
That's right. That's right.
I tell you, it's a good reminder sometimes, because when you've been doing it for a year or 5 or 10, I often think of, like, there's names in the chat right now who I know have been following for a long time, and I have seen their progress and development. So going back and doing an introductory exposure triangle video is like, well, my audience is past that. But no, there's a lot of people who are looking to buy a D3200 or whatever right now. It does get repetitive for me in a way, because I've done it 3 times. But if you can, those videos don't get any views anymore. So if you can do it again and in a up-to-date way, film it better, present the information more concisely, use the current equipment to demonstrate the points, I think it is important, no matter what gear you're shooting with, to keep encouraging people who are not at that level. I'm part of one of the Z9 Facebook groups, and it's so bitchy. If any of you are in the chat or in that group, check it, because like someone will ask a question and like, geez, buying a $6,000 camera and you don't even know that. Ugh. Now, Jesus, this is like a community specially set up to support each other, and you're just being dicks. Like,
I just want to say, looking at this video from 9 years ago, you age well, buddy. You age well. So that's a compliment. That's a compliment.
you're not probably wearing the same jacket though.
It's the same glasses almost. No, they're a little darker, a little thinner.
Matt,
hey, buddy, you're a good guy. In all sincerity, I know there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who have Googled some sort of Nikon gear. And I just want to say, with all sincerity, when you sold that Nikon stuff, I don't know why. Boy, I tell you what, I was like, this son of a bitch, what is he doing? Is he?
You were one of the guys who flamed me.
I didn't flame you, but I
got those unsubscribe messages.
What is this guy's angle? What does he do? This is a YouTube ploy, and then to get all the other collaborator guys on there to
honestly, I thought he sold it. I thought he sold his stuff. And then I guess
he did. He sold it. Go watch the video.
No. I'm sorry.
Everything but the F2. That
I thought he jumped ship to another brand, but he didn't.
See, even experienced YouTubers don't listen. I said clearly, I'm selling it. I'm going to test stuff. I'm going to make a decision. I'll update you. That's the tricky thing. I find that the hardest still. You need a good thumbnail and a good title for people to watch it.
That's exactly right.
But so many people form their opinion on the video based on that rather than the content. I haven't always been good with it, but I'm trying harder and harder to be specific in what I say. So like, people will watch a video and then say, that's bullshit. You can't say the ... And I'm like, but I did not say that. Listen to what I said.
Watch the video.
I said,
right.
In this situation, it works better for me than this. I didn't say it doesn't work. Like, people just hear sometimes, I think, or take from the title when you say it's the best or I sold it or whatever, they read into that more than what you're saying. And I find that really difficult how to be clear without kind of speaking to people like children.
Hey, one last question before we get off. That Nikon guy, was that self-proclaimed, or did somebody start calling you that? How did that come about? How did that branding happen?
it was an honorary award from Gray. No, I wish.
Right.
No. It was, Gray Levitt of Grays of Westminster.
Oh, wait, no.
But
yeah.
no, it was it's like not a very interesting story other than it became a name that is still stuck. And when I meet, especially Filipinos, they only know me as that Nikon guy. Very strong Nikon community there.
Yeah.
But I started the channel 11 years ago in January. I went to make one video, so I had to create a Google account and create a channel. And I just saw my bag of gear and thought, well, at least Nikon users will be interested in it. And I thought 3-word names sound better. And I just chose it in 5 minutes and just typed it in and saved it. That was it. And it kind of stuck. But I mean, but I dropped the name and just changed the channel and my website to just Matt Granger, because for the simple fact, if you were that 911 guy, Ford won't work with you for sure, but then maybe Nikon won't either, because maybe they have some partnership in the works with someone else or whatever. So having a brand in the name seemed limiting, especially when I'm not on track for, and I wouldn't want to be an ambassador. Then the downside seemed to be not worth the upside. And people still think of me, a lot of people still think of me as that Nikon guy anyway. I don't need to brand myself such.
Yeah, wise choice. That was very smart of you.
Hey, Josh got a last question. I want one.
What's that?
Instead of me asking the question, I'm going to ask a question that Agnetha asked, and particularly for you, Matt. When you travel in Europe and Asia, do they have more Nikon users there than there are in North America?
Hi, Agnetha, by the way. Thank you for joining. She joins my live show sometimes too. It does vary by country, that's for sure. Like I remember back in the day, it was Canon seemed more popular in America, and then Nikon, and then the others. Philippines was skewed towards Nikon for sure. But I kind of base the test off my workshops, because I can clearly see what people are shooting with, and I bring the flash triggers for them. And from like 2017 to 20, it was probably like 40% Sony, and then 20 Nikon and Canon. I can't think of these days European or like English speaking countries where Nikon dominates. I don't know that they do anywhere now, but there's certain Asian countries, where Nikon, because the game used to be Nikon and Canon, and now it's not that limited anymore. I don't know, but maybe early, it's probably a false data too, because I probably get more Nikon shooters coming to me than the general population would represent.
Hey, thanks for the answer. I hope that answered it, Agnetha. And Vahagan, thanks for the live stream tonight, buddy.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. You're a good host. Great host.
Thank you. I have a last question. Other than photography, what are you into? What other things are you into?
Who's this for?
You, Matt.
Okay. I think you asked me this last time too. What are you just like making me feel bad that in 6 months I haven't gotten a hobby? So it used to be travel. I do like, when we can, going to nice restaurants. It's not necessarily all things that I spend a lot of time on, but I'm also personally interested in photography. So that's, I think, the funny one. You don't get accountants who in their spare time like to do just a little bit of bookkeeping for fun. But photographers, it is sometimes hard to compartmentalize that this is work, this is hobby, but they're actually kind of the same thing. Just I'm not talking to anyone when I go out and shoot birds alone. So I got more and more into going out to shoot birds last year, and I want to get back to doing more of that. I'm really into wristwatches, but that's something that takes up a lot of time, just like doing little research and stuff online.
And money.
Yeah. Well, the research doesn't, but if you're
the watch,
depends how serious you get into it. I mean, the usual stuff. We catch up with friends and family for dinners and that kind of thing, but I think I should, but I don't really have a a hobby that I'm
Seafood and
doing. Like,
sushi. Seafood and sushi, right? Yeah.
That's definitely an interest. But thinking of like hobbies, something that I will go to the cinema when we can. I used to watch like a movie a day. Now it's probably like 1 or 2 a month, that kind of thing. But I have a pretty, I mean, especially for someone who has no kids, I have a fairly tame life of working, then having dinner in or out, and then maybe watching some Netflix or something like that, or maybe going to see friends in the evening, or going to play table tennis or something like that. And then I go to bed. It's not like I'm not going to, people don't even do this anymore, but going to discos or, I don't have a surprising Quidditch hobby or anything like that to share.
You drink?
No, as of last show, I told you I had quit.
That's right.
So I've been quit for 10 months or something now.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure that you still quit.
Who are Matt? Who are you, man? All these last questions. How many last questions can you handle, Matt? Who are you watching on YouTube? Who are you watching on YouTube? Who is somebody you are watching all the time? They inspire you, and you want to see what's next.
There's no YouTube channel on photography that I watch every video.
Forget photography. Okay. I mean, I'm talking anything on YouTube. What do you look at?
I don't know about inspiring, but that I find enjoyable. Can I put it to that way? Because I get into topics. So there's like some writers and authors that I'll get interested in what they're talking about. And I think I've watched everything online that has Christopher Hitchens in it. And
I love Christopher Hitchens. Yes. Yeah. Good stuff. So, good answer.
I think I've just about memorized most of the videos so I can repeat it at parties and sound like I know what I'm talking about. I watch a Canadian channel called Throttle House for car reviews, which is quite hilarious. Good stuff.
They are funny.
And there's a couple of watch channels that I watch, ranging from really informative to just stupid, that are fun. There's one guy, actually, Roman Schaff. He runs a company called Luxury Bazaar. I had him on my channel once. I would love to do more watch content on my channel. I'm just tossing up if it's the right thing to do, because I'll send myself broke if I get too into it. But he's much more successful. He's built a much bigger company, but I feel like we have a lot in common. Watching his early videos, he's like going to Hong Kong and going to here and there, but instead of going to run a photography workshop, he's there to go to a jewelry or a watch convention or something, but then meeting up with friends and that kind of thing at night, to go to bars and dinners and stuff. So it was just like what I was doing at the same time with, Tina or other people when I was going to London to run workshops, that kind of thing. So, well, let me see what else is popping up in my stream. I get into like little rabbit holes. So last night, I just watched a bunch of old Kung Fu fight scenes where they just like take out the best 2-minute action scenes from the film and splice them all together. So Ip Man, I forget what that actor's name is, but I think I've watched all of his great fight scenes. I've watched a lot of Stephen Fry. He's done a lot of talk shows in Scandinavia where he gets asked different questions than American hosts or British hosts tend to ask him. So I watched a lot of them recently. But I mean, that's not to say like I'm some aloof guy and I don't watch anyone else's video. When you guys have a video out,
actually, you sound like a YouTube junkie after all that. Sounds like you watch a lot of YouTube.
I have watched more in the past week because I'm trying to edit, and
I get it.
I'm failing at it. But I watch any of the big, well, not even big, but any of the YouTubers' channels, if they have a topic that I'm interested in, or they've got some equipment that I haven't got to test out or to see their opinion on it. Like some of the production quality of some of the guys is just next
fantastic.
I should watch it more to be inspired, but it just kind of like, let me just finish my janky edit and get this thing up. I don't need to see that.
But I find it that people love the production value, but they also like the raw, snippets or that. That's really popular right now.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Matt. We appreciate you, buddy.
My pleasure.
And
thanks to
hope
you
your
guys.
foot has healed up good and you're walking around well, and you get out of that quarantine real quick, buddy. Get back to making great content. We appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Come to the States, man. Seriously. I want to meet you one day.
I'll meet you halfway. Let's Tahiti. What's halfway? Hawaii, maybe.
That's
Europe.
good halfway.
Europe? No. New York?
That's the wrong way halfway.
Yeah, if I flew the
Hawaii's
long
better.
way, I could come by New York, I guess.
Yeah. Rock and roll, man. So,
Well, I'm not
thanks for
worthy, and I
having us,
thank
bro.
you guys for letting me feel like a big shot tonight and sit in here with you at the big people's table.
Thanks
It
for
was fun.
joining us, Chuck. You're a good man. You're a good man.
yeah, let's rock and roll one day, man. I'll take you to a nice rock concert.
All right.
Jam, drink, shoot some shots.
No drinking for Matt, though.
All right.
Do all the rest. That's all right. I don't need it to be social.
Yeah.
Good
You're a
stuff.
big are you a big rock guy, metal? Headbanging?
Asked me these questions last time. Come on, Parkinson never forgot their answers.
I did, but I didn't have this many people on my chat live.
Yeah.
I'll listen to anything. I wouldn't say that I am like a rock guy, but if you were shooting a concert, I would love to come along and experience it.
Sounds good. All right, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. We appreciate you, buddy. Have a
Thanks,
good one.
Matt.
Thank you,
guys.
Josh. Thank you.
Thank you, Vahagan. Chuck, we'll see you, buddy.
Thanks to all the
All right,
everyone
Josh.
watching.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Have a
Sounds
great
blaring.
night.